Good evening and welcome to another video blog from me, Gemma. I was waiting so long for the camera to turn on then I almost forgot it was happening, so forgive my confused face when it finally turned on. This evening I'm going to show you how to make the fan design. I've put a picture of it at the start of this blog, so you'll see the one that originally sparked all the interest from Jewellery Maker TV back in beginning of June, I think. And unfortunately I don't have the same beads to make the same design, but I'll show you how you can adapt that design so that you can use other beads too. So this evening I'm going to use rice beads and 6mm rounds, but as we talk through I'll show how changing the bead size and shapes will change the shape and size of your fan and make your design broader or narrower depending on the size of your beads. So here's an adaption on the design that I've made. This is using bone beads that have been dyed turquoise and wooden beads. As you can see, if I move it closer, I've used 3 beads in between each tube then, which means that 1, you need less tubes, and 2, it gives you a more open fan shape. And also you can see that this is just one large fan attached to the rest of a beaded necklace. And so in the design I did on Jewellery Maker TV, you'll see I used 3 small fans that sort of made almost like a lace collar effect. And it's up to you, once you get to grips with how to bead the beads, how to use this technique. I'm sure you'll come up with 1,000,001 ways to use it. And a great source of other ideas is looking on the Jewellery Maker Facebook page, because the Jewellery Maker fans have come up with millions of ingenious ways of adapting this design, so please take a look there too. There's a link at the bottom of the blog. Right, so what I would usually use for a more delicate fan, and especially the one that I did on the 3rd of June, I think it was, I used monofilament. 1, because you can't see it, and 2, because it gives the fan quite a lot of fluidity, so it will mould nice and flat to your neck. But today, for the purposes of this video and the fact that my lighting isn't fantastic in this room, I'm going to use tiger tail or beading thread, whatever you might call it, and I'm using a blue just so that it shows up nicely for you. And let's crack on. I'm using rice beads, which do exactly the same job as a tube. Only problem with rice beads is that they are shaped like a grain of rice, which means they do rock together rather than, I don't know if you can see this, they will sort of rock together. This is nice in one way because it gives you a nice snug fit in the centre of your fan, and it naturally wants to fan out. So it might be something that you prefer. And I'm using some fancy agate beads. They're contrast, but it's just what I've got in my stash really. So let's start. I've cut off 1 metre roughly of beading thread, and we're going to start in the centre of that beading thread. And what we want to do is thread on 1 rice bead, 1 agate, and another rice bead. I'm going to take that down to the centre of my thread. Okay, so this is what it looks like to start with in the centre. And now I'm going to flip the screen down so that I can work on the surface. Okay, so here we have it. There's our 3 on the centre of the thread. What I'm going to do is take one end of my thread and bring it back through so back in the other direction, just 1 of those rice beads. Okay, and then pull it nice and tight, and you end up with that. And probably you can see how it's going to work already. I'm just going to tip this screen slightly. There we go. So you can see how it's going to work, I think, already. Right, now on the, let's call this the top, and let's call this the bottom. So the bottom is going to be where I've got the agate. So on the top thread, this one that comes out of the rice bead this way, I'm going to thread on another rice bead, and on the bottom thread I'm going to thread on an agate. And the thread that I threaded the agate on, I'm going to pop through the rice bead and pull tightly. There you go. And now we've got three petals then of our fan. Okay, and then the same again, the top thread, this thread that comes out of the top of the rice bead, I'm going to thread on a rice bead, and on the side I've got the agate, so I'm going to thread on an agate, and then the side with the agate on, I'm going to thread up in the other direction through the rice bead and pull tightly. Now you might want to twist and warp as you go along, but you can manage that after. Okay, so our fan's coming together, you can see how it's working. Basically what's happening is, it's, you know, there's no gaps in the thread this side and gaps that side, so actually whatever bead you used, even around, you would get this circle shape forming anyway. And what's lovely is the elongation of rice beads or tube beads give you what looks like a fan, and so that's why I think it looks so different to what is basically a ladder weave, just with the rungs missing on one side, if you like. So we'll keep going. Agate on one side, rice bead on the other. Take the thread with the agate on and thread up through the rice bead. Okay, now what I was saying earlier is, the larger a bead you use in place of these agates, the tighter the circle will be, or the more abrupt then, the less rice beads you'll need. If I just show you quickly what will happen, if I put a larger, I just put a, I think this is a 10mm agate rather than a 6, and pop on a rice bead just as we would before, and pull it, you'll see that the angle will become much larger, and so you'll end up probably using 2 or 3 less rice beads. I don't know if you can tell that there. It would make quite a significant difference in how many, should we call them spokes, and how many spokes you'd have in your fan. Take that off if you don't want that on there. Right, and we're nearly completed one part of the fan. A good tip to remember is, it's tempting to think that you're finished once you've done a semicircle, or a half circle, because of course if you kept going with this, eventually the sides would meet up and you'd have a whole wheel. But it's tempting to stop when you get to a semicircle point and think that's finished. However, if you just do one rung extra, or one spoke extra, then you'll get a slightly over a semicircle, which helps it go around the neck, because remember, the neck's not flat, you're going to go around your neck, which is a circular shape. So by adding that extra spoke then in your fan, it will help it sit nicely around the neck, especially if you're doing sort of 2 or 3 or 4 even fans. So there's half a semicircle, and you can see it's tempting to stop there, and you can, of course, if you want to, but you do get a more squared neckline if you do that. So we'll put one more on, and then that should complete one fan that would go round our necks. Okay, so just to run you through that again, the top thread, this thread, I'm putting a rice bead. The bottom thread, I'm putting in around an agate, and then I'm taking the bottom thread through in the other direction through the rice bead and pulling taut. Okay, so there we go, there's one fan complete. You flip that over, you can see it the right way up for you. One fan complete. Now if I had monofilament, what I would do is I would pass this thread, the bottom thread, through back on itself through the agate, through the little round bead. Keep it tight as you go. This is much easier with monofilament. Monofilament's slippy at first, but once you've pulled it tight, it does tend to stay. And then up again through the next rice bead, and then I would just simply tie a knot. I would tie a knot there. You won't be able to see it, and that would be a separate component. Okay, it would be tied off just there. Then what I do is to thread it onto my necklace. Let me just tie this so that we're all following. So I'm just going to tie that with the beading thread for now. And slip it. Just slip it off. Okay. And then when I came, I'd make 2 or 3 of those, depending on how many I wanted for my necklace. And then when it comes to threading them all on, you just use these top 2 as if they were one bead. So I pop that through there, through that bead, and then I would thread on something that coordinated maybe, and you'll see what you've got that fits. It might be 2 of these, or even 1 rice bead might look quite nice in the centre. Here I've got lots of different sizes of these agates, so I'm going to use those. And then once you've got your centre stones threaded on, then thread through the next one, and there you go, you've got your one fan on your beading thread. Okay, and then you're ready to complete the rest of your design. And that's about that. So I hope you enjoyed that very quick tutorial. I'll try and get more on this month for the rest of the next few days, because I'm not quite as busy as I have been. So next Jewellery Maker performance or appearance is on the 7th of July. So around next week time I'll get my kits, and I'll be very busy doing that. So hopefully I'll get a few more of these tutorials done for you over this week. So there you go, there's one fan. I hope that was helpful. I hope it was clear enough. If it wasn't, please comment, please get in contact, and I'll try and rectify anything that I skipped over too quickly. Bye for now.